Hey guys, I'm here with my client Emma, just in front of this home that they've purchased and completely renovated into a legal basement apartment. So yeah, tell us how was this process to go through the renovation and create this investment property?
Yeah, sure. It's our very first duplex conversion. Previously, we've only invested in condos in Toronto. So in the beginning, before we started, it was kind of like overwhelming. It's like, oh my gosh, first time buying a house, first time renovating such a large project. But to be honest, it was so smooth. I think the main reason is because Koukun, your team, like Jordan, architect, Lee, the contractor, everyone, they're just so easy to work with. They're really good at communicating what we should expect. Really, we just came in once in a while, take a look at the property, and then bam, it's done. Yeah, it's actually a lot more smooth than I expected.
Awesome. All right, so why don't we go into the basement and show you a quick tour of it. All right, so we're in this recently completed legal basement apartment, and recent meaning yesterday is when the final finishing touches were done. Yeah. So tell us, how long did it actually take to get this basement done?
From the beginning of renovation till now, it's about 10 weeks.
10 weeks, okay.
Yeah.
And this property, when we purchased it, it had a finished basement. Yes. It had a full washroom, and pretty much you kept it just the way it was.
Exactly.
But there were quite a few. I remember there were some walls inside here that had to be removed, opened up, a new wall constructed to put the bedroom. So talk us through maybe the design process. So you got Jordan, our architect, to create the drawings. What was that like, and what were some of the key decisions that you made?
Yeah, so like you said before, this was all closed off. It was like a man cave room. And then this was a home theater. But to make it a functional one-bedroom unit, we decided to open up the wall to make this open space, a lot of lights, generous space for the kitchen and living. And again, because of the washroom was very nice, fully finished, we didn't want to touch it. We didn't want to waste our time and energy rebuilding the washroom. So we ended up with a large one-bedroom unit. The bedroom is generous size. Ideally, we would want a two-bedroom, but given the condition of the basement, we decided to go with a one-bedroom. Jordan, basically, he just came in during one of our pre-close, what do you call it? Walkthroughs. And he just did his drawings and then sent us over the floor plan. And really, we loved it. We didn't really have any comments there. Okay. So yeah, it's a very functional floor plan. So I think it will do well.
Yeah. Yeah, especially like you said, going for a one-bedroom instead of a two, because you could have maybe made this a two, but you would have really compromised on having a large, spacious kitchen, a good sized living room, and we have these two gigantic windows here in the living space. You would have had to kind of figure out a way to squish the living space and the kitchen together. Yeah, I like on one of my own properties, I also did the same thing. I kept, and you guys saw it, I think, when you first saw this property, right? So maybe that helped, because we also went with a one-bedroom that was spacious versus a two-bedroom that was tight.
Exactly.
So talk to us about the renovation, maybe even the renovation budget. So this property took 10 weeks to complete, quite a bit of work to legalize. There was, I guess, drywall, framing, opening things up, flooring, kitchen, quite a bit of separation between the units.
Yeah. When we entered, if you remember, there was a wall on the left. That was completely open. That was the way to go upstairs. So we closed that off completely. And then we did a lot of, I guess, the whole soundproof and fireproof. Separated the furnace over there. so that it's on its own, and then we have a nice laundry room for the basement unit. And then you can see like we had to knock down the wall completely, redo the framing over here for this wall, so we have a nice bedroom over there. For the floor, it's kind of interesting because the basement was finished. It was tiles, if you remember, but to take out the tiles would take a lot of money and time. So we decided to just lay the floor on top of it.
Perfect.
It saved us maybe $8,000 there.
And you know, it doesn't hurt to have tile underneath, because tile also is a waterproof type of floor, right? So if you had like old laminate, then maybe it's not as good to keep it.
Right.
But with tile, it doesn't hurt at all.
Yeah.
Upstairs, you guys have it rented already. Talk us about the process with that. And
Sure. So we hired a management company, a local management company, and throughout the renovation period, they've been advertising the upper unit for us, because the upper unit, the condition is perfect. It's basically move-in ready. So we didn't do any work up there. So we were able to find a tenant. They are, you know, the perfect ideal tenant profile for us. They're a young couple, no kids, no pets, really good credit score, and they're ready to move in October 1st.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so I think the benefit of getting a management company is they do the filtering for us.
Absolutely.
And they're really good at it too.
Yeah.
There was a potential candidate, but they have 2 large dogs, and the management company came back and said, oh, look, we rejected this one because, you know, we have a lower unit as well. We don't want to disrupt
the sound transfer.
Exactly.
There's no way in a shared home, unless both tenants have dogs. If you have one with dogs, one without, it always
gets tricky. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And what kind of rent were you able to get? So it's a 2-bedroom unit.
It's a 2-bedroom unit. We're getting $1,875 plus hydro.
Awesome. And that's a 2-bedroom unit. Did you give them the garage as well?
Yeah, so they're getting the garage, they're getting the backyard as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And this basement, I know we've just completed it. Have you talked to your property manager yet about what they expect they'll be able to get in rents down here?
Yeah, right now we're looking at $1,400 plus hydro.
Okay, perfect. So all in, you should be looking at about $3,250 plus hydro, which is crazy for a 2-bedroom bungalow when we initially purchased it, right?
Yeah.
So that's incredible numbers. Yeah, no, I'm really happy to see how this project turned out. I'm really happy to hear that the renovation went smoothly. That's not always the case.
I know.
We do sometimes find hidden expenses and things coming up.
We did have a small blip. So there was like crazy storms during the summer, and then when we came in one time before the floor was done, we saw some water, and then turns out the pump was actually not working.
Okay.
So we had to get that switched out, but it wasn't
well,
too
it's good.
much.
Good you found it before.
Exactly. It was before the flooring was done, so it was perfect timing.
Perfect. Okay. No, that's really good to hear. And I remember on this purchase, when we purchased it at the home inspection, there were a lot of plants.
Yes.
Now you love plants.
I love plants.
But we also found something in the attic.
Yes.
Did you guys end up taking care of it, or what was the verdict there?
Yeah, so we just got our general contractor to take care of the stuff there, and then also fix the exhaust fan so that it's properly getting all the moisture out.
Yeah, so what we found was there was a lot of mold on the sheathing, which is the wood pieces in the attic, and that happens when there's moisture inside, but also when there's not proper ventilation, so it kind of builds up. So what you did there by obviously remediating it, but also putting the vents, then prevents it from happening again. So very important to do, especially for a rental property. You don't want tenants having some health issues later and it coming back to you, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Many times when it comes to these kind of renovations, we're always debating, should we add more bedrooms? Because we always feel like bedrooms result in more rent and more desire from tenants. But I don't think that's always the case. I do feel there's a case to be made for spacious 1-bedroom units. And even sometimes spacious 2-bedroom units when there's the space for a 3rd bedroom.
Right.
Not making that extra bedroom, make the bedrooms more spacious, put in a walk-in closet, make a bigger living space. I think those things go a long way to appeal to the tenant,
Right.
Versus just extra rooms whenever possible, right?
Definitely.
So Emma, any advice if you were to speak to yourself prior to getting started, what words of advice would you give her?
I would say if you have the capital, just go for it. There's no point timing the market, because when we got this property, the market was crazy. It was right after the lockdown, everyone was buying a house. We had a deadline to really go in because we came into the deal with a partner, and then they basically refinanced their own house. Basically, the down payment was from the refinance of their current house. So, we had the money and we decided to go in.
Yeah, that's actually very valuable advice, because many first-time investors are always kind of thinking, is now the right time to buy? Should I wait for a better time when the market's cooler, when prices are potentially cheaper, right? But it's always hard to know. It's actually impossible to know, like, is now the right time versus not, right? Because even last summer when I bought one rental property, that was the summer right after COVID. There was still the doom and gloom. Everyone was talking about, the economy collapsing, so many bad things happening. There was a property for sale, and I was like, I have the funds, let me go ahead. I can't predict the future, but it makes sense now. I'm going to move forward, right? And looking back, that was like one of the best times to buy, right? So you can't always predict it, but the strategy we have is we look more for cash flow, right?
Exactly. As long as the cash flow makes sense, even if the housing price go down a little bit, we're covered by the rent, so it's fine.
Absolutely. Hope you found that helpful. If you're interested in creating a legal basement apartment, definitely check out our free guide in the comments below. And if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. Otherwise, like and subscribe. All the best.